Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Gates, Admiral Mullen, for appearing before us today, and thank you for your service to our nation. Despite delaying the delivery of this year's request until the middle of May, the Department has yet to disclose some specific justification behind numerous major defense reductions, and you've probably heard the frustration from many members because we want to know why, and we certainly want to work with you to be able to justify those reductions. I believe that some of the restructuring efforts cut disproportionately across certain forces, and this year's request would have a direct negative impact on the overall fighter aircraft inventory and the combat search and rescue assets, including nearly a dozen units in my district alone. Members here do not have the luxury of planning our nation's defense on a year-to-year basis. It's the responsibility of this committee to balance short-term security with long-term stability and provide for the continued robust defense of our nation. So delaying the outline of future plans to a date uncertain, in my opinion, undermines this year's request and a major decision being made in this year's budget. So specifically, Secretary Gates, the Department announced last month that they would cancel the CSAR replacement program. And according to your statements, the next year will be spent researching potential alternatives and verifying the requirement. At Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in my district, they have long awaited the final selection and delivery of a new aircraft for this crucial mission. Among operators, there seems to be no question of the need for this program. So could you please expand on the justification for canceling the program, and in making this decision, did you consider the substantial additional risk being placed on the current aircraft fleet, and were you also aware of the current fleet of Pave Hawk aircraft beginning to reach the end of their designed service life, actually 6 years ago now?
Principal reasons behind the decision on CSAR-X were first some significant acquisition problems associated with the program. And second, it was a single service, single mission kind of aircraft. It also had an operational concept flaw as far as I was concerned, because it's supposed to be able to rescue pilots deep in enemy territory. It was being designed with a 250-mile range, and yet both the F-22 and the F-35, as well as the F-16 for that matter, have a range of up to 500 miles. The notion of an unarmed helicopter being able to rescue somebody deep in enemy territory as a single mission struck me as not being plausible. So what we discovered, if we look back at the previous times, most notably in the Balkans, when a pilot was down behind enemy lines, it ended up being several services and several different capabilities that were used in the rescue, and I think that's the kind of joint capability we need to think about for search and rescue. We do need to get on with it, and the intent is to do that during the course of FY10.
Admiral Mullen?
The only comment I would add is that the fact that this program was canceled does not in any way, shape, or form speak to a lack of commitment to rescuing somebody when they're in that need, and we will figure out a way to do that. Everybody is committed in that regard.
Talking about fighter gap, and we've had a lot of hearings in the subcommittees about the fighter gap shortfall and the waterfall, and really losing 80% of our fighters in the next 8 years is something that I believe that we're all concerned about. I know that this year's budget request would cancel the F-22 program, add only a handful of F-35 test aircraft, and retire 250 Air Force fighter aircraft. The current Air Force fighter fleet is roughly 200 aircraft short of the department's stated requirement for fighters, and even under the most optimistic projections, the Air National Guard would be forced to close 13 fighter wings by 2017. The total fighter gap now will grow to 800 aircraft under current plans. So I know we've had a lot of discussion about F-22s, but I'm really specifically looking at what we're going to be doing with our Air National Guard program and the justification by some of these requests that you've made.
Well, again, as I said earlier, the bathtub in fighters depends on whether you're looking at the requirement from the standpoint of our current force structure and anticipated force structure and our desired capabilities, or whether it's based on a threat analysis. And those are the kinds of issues that are going to be addressed in the quadrennial defense review, because if you look at the threat analysis, our lead on fifth-generation fighters, for example, over, for example, China, is enormous in 2020 and grows even greater in 2025. So it really gets more to a question of force structure here in the United States versus the threat-based, and that's the kind of thing that's going to be looked at in the QDR.
Thank you.
Thank the gentlelady. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you very much. And Admiral Mullen, Secretary Gates, thank you very much for your service.